And the presidency says power generation in the country has greatly improved under the BUHARI administration. Presidential spokesman Garba Shehu says though the administration has been constrained by situations on ground, the government has been able to generate more than 13,000 megawatts of power. He claims that the government has also doubled power availability in the country. Garba Shehu said the government inherited a reckless privatization of the power sector, but that it has been able to raise its uptake by 5,000 megawatts. Okay, Rise analyst Dr. Sam Amadi joins us now to look at the role of the new Nnpc board and what impact it will make for more viable industry. Thanks so very much for joining us on Newsnight. We know Nnpc is now a limited liability, but do these new board members have the professional capability to really drive Nnpc like Saudi Aramco's, or is it the Petrobras of Brazil and the rest?
Well, I think that's how it would be yes, potentially yes, if they do a couple of things. If you look at the PIA, the Nnpc is designed to be a commercial entity, even though owned by government 100%, but supposed to run on profit on a commercial basis and compete with other entities in a regulated market. So two things: regulated and, of course, commercialized. Again, if you look at the composition, I think there's also a fine mix of professionals and what you can call politicians, or what we now call technopolits, politicians as well as the technocrats. Okay, so the CEO, who is a member of the board, is a professional, very competent, great experience. And then the retention of Chief Pius Akin Yerelu, who was in the previous board, is an advantage in terms of memory. Marjorie Kadibo, who is the chairperson, she is a politician, you can say, former senator, and a professional who came to politics. Now, think about, if you look at the corporate governance rules and CAMA, and also the Act, Section 63, outlines what the board should be doing. So they're going to do a couple of, first is they're going to do strategic direction. They would direct the entity in terms of its business practices. They will do oversight, look at the auditing, the finances and all that, and they do monitoring, and of course stakeholder engagement and political accountability to the shareholders, in this case the federation. So I think these persons ordinarily should have the competence to do this. Again, they're going to rely on professional cadre who will advise them. But the critical problem is how they conceive their role. They should see themselves as strategic directors of the company. And even the politicians, they should know that this is a company that should be able to declare dividend, profitability. And if they don't migrate from politics to some level of technocracy, so to say, and then work harmoniously with the executive, because most of them are non-executive, including the chairman, work with the chief executive, other executive members who come with professional experience, then they could undermine the strategic focus of the Petroleum Industry Act. But on the paper, they have minimum profile to fit in. I mean, the best would have been to have probably a industry titan who has retired as chairman. But if you look at how these operations are filled up in the US everywhere, you have to get politicians in. But you want to make sure that politicians who have both the disposition and the credential to at least understand briefings and work with respect to professionalism. I mean,
wouldn't you say that the composition actually
looks balanced?
Yeah, looks really balanced. I mean, you have 3 women, for example, on that on that board. Some have described it as really gender friendly, and of course you have a Marjorie who's put in 36 years experience in as a legal or as a lawyer. Melekiari, I mean, he's a geologist,
it's balanced,
and what have you. So I mean,
very balanced. Of course,
what would be your agenda setting?
Good point. I think the first thing that a board does, especially a regulated board like this one, is to set out their business rules very clear. The Act talks about setting up committees. One of those committees will be committees on remuneration, committee on auditing and financial settlement. So you have to be careful at this stage to set the committees, appoint the board members themselves into relevant committees, matching their skills and experience to those committees. Again, you have to also set up the rules clearly. How conflict of interest declaration, how do you proceed? Now, the Act may not provide all those, But they have to first look at the act and use it to create additional corporate code to guide the board, to make sure the board lines up with the objective of the act, as well as a board that complies with CAMA. So the first work now is to assemble some kind of experts, and then Nnpc should be able to have that kind of capacity to clearly articulate how the board will function. If you look at the act, there are issues around conflict of interest, issues around misconduct, and how they should relate both with themselves. This board also has the power to appoint non-executive members to support them. So they really have to set up those structure fast. And again, very important, it's a regulated industry now. It wasn't like the old Nnpc, where you're only accountable to Mr. President. They're going to be accountable to the downstream sector in the commission, the downstream electricity commission. And the upstream electricity commission on the job to do. So they have to really get those regulatory framework and mirror them and see how the board is defined and constituted in a manner that enables them to provide strategic guidance to Nnpc Limited.
Okay, let's quickly go to PAR now. I mean, we know that you were once chairman of the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission and the rest, and I remember that during that period, the country, the power managers were always telling us that, look, we have 13,000 megawatts of power, but TCN transmission is the problem. So a lot of the power is wasted, totally wasted. But now again, we're hearing this again, the same figure, 13,000 megawatts, but we can only generate maybe at most 5,000, just between, it hovers between 3,000 to 4,000.
Well, it's the case of when things change, they remain the same. You know, you can say clearly, I think we should move beyond counting these numbers of what we can generate. Clearly, it's easy to increase generation given what we've done. The legal framework is there, the institutional framework is there, the central bank has been helping with support system. The investors are able to now, so if you are increasing generation, it's good, but that's not really the big problem.
Dabashe, who speaks about prevailing situation that they could have done better, and then there was this reckless privatization that happened in 2013.
Since we talk about reckless, by the way, let's put it very clear. Nothing reckless about privatization. I have a problem with privatization as a policy, how it's done, but that was a transparent process, really, because the people who won because the only people who came to the show. How does Gagaba should have done a new one? By the way, this government has not privatized Nnpc, NIPP, that was the Jonathan didn't finish. They couldn't do it because nobody's taking it on. They have not privatized the ones they want to do. So it's easy to talk about reckless, but the point is this. If you look at the indebtedness of this sector, about 515 or 17 billion owed to the market operator, the embed. Now, the capitalization to the banks, the debt to the banks is about 817.97 billion. So if you look at the financials, this is not a thriving market. If you look at corporate governance, you see the issues around corruption, look at the AEDC. So basically, if you ask me, they have not really, this is not time to toast and clink the glasses, because we're not getting better than 4,000 megawatts on average for our homes. And when we left, by the way, we're getting, as I said, September before I left, we're getting about 4.8 at the point to go to 5. And these are momentary peaks, they drop. We have not really gone out of the corner. We can't say, go out of the woods. This sector is still bedeviled.
Of course, no
bragging right now.
No time to talk about cost-reflective tariff and of course the cost of meters and what have you.
The rest, Thanks so very much, Associate Professor of Law and Arise analyst, Sam Amadi.